Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Sandy, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Let's jump straight into it. What got you into the fantastic, yet sometimes troublesome world of consulting?
Well, I love helping multiple companies, and I might have an attention issue. So being in one for very long is not really my jam. I love variety, and consulting provides that variety. And at Lodestone, which is the firm I run now, we focus on private equity firms and their portfolio companies. And so how did I get to that was I had spent some time in private equity and in consulting and decided to specialize in that area.
Those are very good reasons to get into consulting, in my opinion. What's the problem that you solve, Sandy? What do you help those companies achieve?
Yeah, we help them grow, achieve what they would call their value creation plan, increase their EBITDA. We do that by using human capital science around their management team, their leaders in the organization. So we're all about the business of making people performance better within a company so that the company is worth more and is more efficient in what they do.
Do you have a specific niche, industry, target, ICP that you work with to achieve that?
Yeah, primarily we work with private equity firms and their portfolio companies. So a lot of middle market companies. In my past, I worked with large Fortune 100 companies, but what we love about this space is we can really feel like we're making a tangible difference, bringing human capital science that they maybe even haven't heard of before to their people problems. So we have an exception or two, but that's primarily our target.
So everybody wants a piece of the PE firms.
Yeah.
So the next question is going to be kind of the $1 million question, I guess, for people listening to us. What has worked for you marketing-wise to get the attention of those PE firms? Like how do you get leads through the door?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it was all marketing. The fact that I worked in private equity for a couple of years definitely made the difference for the first few referrals. It's all about the network and the referrals. But besides that, what has worked is a multi-channeled process, right? I speak at a lot of their conferences. I'm at their networking conferences. That's certainly a big piece. Referrals from happy clients is another great way to reach them. We think that persona is, these are people who connect and they talk a lot. And so if they've got a friend that they went to college with who's at a different PE firm who says, man, I used this Lodestone. I didn't even know this kind of thing existed to assess my management teams or, help my teams work better with us on the board. When one of their friends says that, they tend to want to get in on the action. There's a little bit of FOMO. So that works as well. And then just being out, spreading the word a little bit. I feel a little bit like an evangelist for our field of organizational psychology. So being on podcasts like yours where people know, hey, there's a different way that you can look at people in an organization, that helps too.
So I like that, but I also want to dig a little bit deeper into this.
Naturally.
A lot of consultants try to get into the PE world just because, this is where the money is, to be blunt. This is where a lot of funds and money are going and businesses are going into. But it's also, and it's funny because the guest I interviewed literally 2 hours before, is also working with PE firms. Mm-hmm. It's like you get access to one portfolio company, and then given you do a satisfactory job, because PE firms are so much focused on reducing costs, increasing profits. If they find a consultant that actually helps them achieve that, they want to send them into their other portfolio companies. So this is the gold mine. But like everything, I mean, like a lot of things, it's a high barrier to entry. So what would you recommend to consultants, not necessarily starting, but who want to get into the PE firms to do? And I know that's a bit of a double edged because you're giving away the secret here, Sandy.
I'm okay to give away the secret. I have an abundance
Nice.
mentality, and I feel like they could use help from a lot of different consultants. So we should all know, right? I don't know that this is the secret sauce precisely, but what I will say is you have to understand their business and their language, and you have to come with data. Get your case studies together before you even try to get in. And they better be talking about increasing EBITDA, what the ROI is. You better be talking about, now that you all are spending your dry powder finally investing in companies, you cannot sound like a consultant, or worse, an insultant, which some of them, perceive consultants as. You have to know your stuff, and go in speaking their language, talking about the problems they have that you're going to help them solve, not talking about like, hey, I'm a consultant. Do you want to buy a watch? Like, look at all my services. Nobody cares about that.
No, that does make sense. How do you get them to potentially cross the finish line, though? How do you go from relationship, referral, introduction, potentially marketing channel to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement? We enroll. How do you make that happen, Sandy?
Well, they really are in the business of time kills deals. So a lot of what we do is we get in at the beginning when they're diligencing a company. And so, I mean, I don't want to sound glib, but it isn't actually that hard to move them through that cycle, because they've got to diligence this management team and this asset before they close on it. And so often they're wanting to run pretty quickly on diligence side. Now, after they own a company, they can feel like they have more time. But then I think it gets back to speaking their language of time kills value. And if you're only going to hold something for 3, 4, 5 years, you don't want to wait a year and say, have the wrong leader in place for a year. I've never spoken to someone in private equity who said, man, we changed out that CEO too fast. Nobody says that. They all wait, they all delay, partly because they're unsure, right? These are great financial engineering minds. That's where, at least from what we do with and for them, we come in with, we'll bring you science to look at these executives so you can feel more comfortable in the decision you're making and make the decision faster. And that, why do they care? It sort of, I hate to say it, but it sort of sells itself, because it's an investment, a small investment relative to the cost of leaving people in place, for too long. And I don't want to sound like we're the hatchet team. Like, we're not all about changing out people and making them leave. A lot of times these companies are growing and expanding, and they've got a core set of good leaders that they just need to add more leaders to. Same thing applies. Why would you wait? Why would you take a year to decide you need a chief revenue officer? We can bring you data to help you make that decision much faster.
So I like that you're pointing this out, and I think this is particular to your niche, obviously. But what actually happens for most consultants is very long sales cycles. And we are getting into a day and age where trust is harder and harder to get. We live in a trust recession world, after all. Anybody can claim anything on internet. So how do you, can you help us understand tactically how you make those deals go faster? Because of your industry, this is happening naturally, but are there some specific aspects that you've implemented or you've seen getting good results in terms of like boosting the sales cycles without threatening, at gunpoint to sign the deal?
I think it comes back to, and this, I don't want this to sound trite, but it might. Stop trying to sell into them. Stop trying to sell. Try to be a good consultative partner. tell them you understand the problems they're having. And if you have a solution that works for them, then of course it's going to naturally emerge. And if you don't, be ready, willing, and able to refer them someone else and to say things like, oh, it sounds like you need an executive search firm. We don't do that. I'm happy to give you a couple of referrals and get out of the way. I think it's a mindset thing. Like, deals move faster if people believe that you authentically care about solving their problem, not about selling.
Problem focused. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Once you come in, you help them solve whatever problem they are facing. You potentially get the deal with another portfolio company. Mm-hmm. But how do you retain Sandy? Because I guess in consulting, you start growing when you onboard clients consistently, but also when you're able to retain customers. And that doesn't mean how do we, milk as much as possible, but like how do we position ourselves so that once we solve the first problem, we can solve the next one and the next one and the next one. So we keep on providing value, mm-hmm. but also we retain the clients. How do you do that?
Yeah, not perfectly, I'll say that. Part of retention, I mean, for us in this industry, one question is, are you retaining the private equity firm? Like, are you getting into the other portcos? The other question is, are you retaining the portcos themselves and staying with them over their life cycle? And we haven't fully cracked that. People come and go sometimes, and some people we've worked with since day one. So it really just depends. But I think it goes back to that trust issue of really being there to solve their problems. So like in our case, we might come in at the beginning of the deal on diligence. Very soon after, you're going to figure out you need to grow that leadership team in one way or another. So we'll be there for that. The company then, let's say, grows and scales very quickly. It's a year in, it's 18 months in. Well, now they probably have a middle management issue because they've sort of solved the top of the house, but who executes a value creation plan? Who grows a company? The people below that who oftentimes haven't had any kind of formal leadership training. Well, that becomes a different service then. We step in and say, let's accelerate your leaders in that case. They're probably getting some churn. Some people get tired of working with private equity, and so a new executive needs to be hired. They call and say, okay, we're now 2.5 years in. We need you to fill a couple of slots for us. And then the company gets more mature, so the human capital systems need to mature. Suddenly they're thinking about things like, we need behavior-based interviewing for all of our organization. We need line workers to be selected differently. We never thought about that before. Can you put a selection system in for it? And then kind of fast forward to they're getting ready to have the next transaction and exit. Sometimes it's helping the management team present well, having them be confident in the way that they're speaking to the next, potential sponsor. And the good thing is, since we, in a lot of cases, sit on the front end of evaluating a management team for one sponsor, when they're ready to sell to the next one, we can give tips on, here's what they'll probably be looking for. This is what you should clean up on your people systems. Here's how you should present it. And so then we've taken them through that whole life cycle of the whole. Does that make sense?
It does. I like it. I also see how that's proving to maybe the PE firm that you can deliver on a continuous basis for their portfolio companies. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe another question would be, PE firms are in the business of reducing costs, optimizing profits, and it's basically the well-guarded secrets. Like whatever edge they have in their industry, they're going to try to keep it. Mm-hmm. So in a world where consultants rely a lot on referrals, how do you go from one PE firm to another? Because I hardly see them saying like, hey, Sandy helped us like increase profitability by like 50%. You should do the same so you can compete with us and potentially annoy us with our future deals. So I see how that works for like a portfolio company and also as a business case for another one. But what about getting into the next PE firm?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe a hot take, Guillaume, but
Ooh.
I know you wanted a little provocative, right? Maybe a hot take. I think they're not maybe going to blast on their website, hey, Lodestone People Consulting helps us do this. All y'all go run after them. But what will happen and what does happen is they're at an ACG conference, they're at insert conference here, they're hanging out someplace in Manhattan with other people in the industry, and they want to brag and they say like, hey, we've got this thing, it really helped make a difference. And then it doesn't take too long for the dots to be connected. I think it happens more that way. Now, maybe a nobler answer would be all boats rise in a high tide. And so I'm not so sure it's all about them competing with each other, but if the entire market shifts where the companies are worth more money, all of them, doesn't everybody win in the long run in the US economy?
For me, it sounds like it would. I like your style, Sandy, and I like the way you seem to be doing business, obviously, from a 15 minutes conversation. Let me throw a little bit of a curveball question at you.
Love it.
What's your number one challenge right now? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack that once you crack, you're gonna get to the next level?
Yeah. Well, there I can think of a few, just like any founder, but I think the biggest challenge is being a nimble boutique firm and being able to get our message out broadly enough to the marketplace. I really do still feel like an evangelist for the field of organizational psychology, business psychology making a difference. And I say that because there are a lot of general management consultants and general management firms. I mean, I think you would, you've been at one, right? There are clinical psychologists who say, hey, we care about behavior at work, but they're adjacent to the actual work that needs to happen. I always think of it like if I want to put a screw in a wall, I should use a screwdriver, not a hammer. But sometimes these hammers come in and try to do the work of an organizational psychologist. And I think our field has a PR problem. I think we're a well-hidden secret, even though we've existed for 150 years or more. So the biggest challenge is getting out the word in the market that human capital science exists, and it doesn't need to be cost prohibitive. It doesn't mean you need to read a 30-page report about whether someone was bullied in 4th grade or their mother was kind to them. That it can be very targeted and hard-hitting and help you make decisions on companies to increase EBITDA. I just need to get that. I feel, again, like an evangelist. I need that message out there. And we're small, so it's not like we're going and spending $1 million going to all of these pretty pricey Tony conferences, right? So we need to be targeted about that. And that's the biggest challenge.
Talk to me about that. So first of all, thanks a lot for sharing this, Sandy. I appreciate it a lot. Talk to me about the PR aspect. Like, how are you thinking about solving it? And the reason I'm asking is not to put you on the spot. Hopefully you see it like this, but more like this is something, although they won't say it, 90% of consultants and B2B coaching firms are struggling with. So how are you thinking of solving it? Like, I'm sure they will love to hear from their peers how they are thinking and thought processing how to solve that PR aspect.
Yeah. I think you have to be willing to try a lot of things and fail fast. I think that's true in business in general. And so that's what we're doing. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. I talked about multiple channels, whether it's talking on a podcast like this or doing some kind of online advertising or going to conferences and accessing databases where you can see prospects. I think you have to try everything and try it long enough to give it a chance. What I don't want to do is sort of ping from one thing to the other and say, well, we tried going to this. once and it didn't work, or we tried talking to this one marketing person and it didn't work. Like, you have to be patient, plant the seeds, and then sort of till the ground and wait for things to come up. And so that's what I think it is. It's try multiple aspects and evaluate. I mean, we're data scientists, so we want to be looking at data of what was the return on this marketing investment and making smart decisions that way.
That would make sense. On the other side of the coin, what's the biggest opportunity that you see in your space in the next 3 to 6 months? Like, what are you excited to work on?
I'm excited about what our clients would call the TAM, the total addressable market. There are so many private equity firms out there, and I think most people are surprised to hear, most business is actually not the big companies you see on TV. It's these middle market businesses that make a difference. There's so many companies out there to help. I always joke with my team. This is why I say it's an abundance mentality, and other consultants should go and do it, because there's so many companies and so many private equity firms that we can be helping. If you're good at what you do, get into that and do that. Because again, these are people who aren't trained in people issues. They're great at what they do. They need help making the people part of the business better. And there's just so much out there. I don't need them all to come. I just need, some of them to show up for our little lodestone. Other people should be getting in on this as well.
What do you think about AIP firms? Like, is that something you're trying to get into? Like, firms who would solely invest in AI-focused companies?
We actually know some that focus on AI as a key strategy of their value creation. I don't know that they're only buying AI companies, but certainly everywhere I go, you could have a bingo card of people talking about AI. So it's definitely a space out there. Where I thought you were going to go is ask me, am I worried about AI? And am I worried about people asking their robot to assess executives for them? And I'm not, by the way.
So I would have not asked it like this, because you don't strike me as someone who would be afraid in that sense. But give me your thoughts. Why are you not afraid by it?
Because I think we all know that AI can help us be efficient at things, but like any other tool, it's only going to be as good as the trained hands it's in. And so my team might be able to use AI to help, write reports more efficiently than before, because they know the right prompts to put in, because they're actually experts in assessment. And I don't mean just my team, plenty of, people in the industry. But do I think a layperson, like, I would not want to go to AI and try to figure out a detailed financial analysis plan on my own, because I might not put the right prompts in. So I'm not worried. Plus, we're still talking about human beings. We're in the business of making people better. And I just don't believe only robots are ever going to be a part of that. I don't think AI is going to get an executive team together in person and have them share fully, willingly, and rawly how they feel about each other and why it's getting in the way of their work.
Yeah. Here we go. I knew it. I think so. It's so funny. There is two things that I want to double down on here, which is, at the end of the day, when we really think about it, because everybody is AI powered, AI native whatsoever. But what people care about are results. And sure, if you have a way to get those results better, faster, cheaper, thanks to AI, you should definitely leverage AI. But like, one thing, I just take my example because this is a question we asked our mentor, and it's like, people want leads. The fact that this is AI powered or not, they don't really care. They want leads that they can sell to. That's it. Now you go and you find the best way to get those leads to your clients. And when you think about, am I afraid that they go off and do it on their own with AI? I think the people who would go off lose time trying to understand what they even need to prompt or search as information. Information has been available for free, like for decades now.
Exactly.
Like selection, curation, knowing what to look for where and how to potentially prompt it is what the value is anyways. So if someone takes the time to go through all this, make all the mistakes that you've made, and potentially get the results that you would have gotten, this is like, they would have never bought from you anyways.
Yeah.
Because they have more time than they have money.
Yep.
And you want to deal with people who have more money than time. So
well said. Well said.
Thank you. Sandy, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, potentially put a quote at the auction for one of those magnificent paintings behind you, where should they go?
Or they might want to say hi to my cat, who has just decided to climb.
Please. We love that.
Oh, you may not join. I mean, we are at lodestonehr.com. If you look for us on the web, we are pretty active on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page we'd love people to follow. And probably if there are clients and prospects, they'll see us at a variety of conferences this year, all in the private equity space.
We will put all the links in the description. For what I'm concerned, I can say one thing for sure, Sandy, you've gained one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How